If you're like me and have played countless hours of the game Master Duel, you might feel that you know everything there is to know about the game Yu-Gi-Oh! However, though, as soon as you go play in your first face-to-face local event, you might feel a little bit out of the loop and a bit confused, especially when you hear words like pop and spin. I mean, what do these words even mean? That's why I've taken the liberty of creating this video where we're going to be going over all the common slang and terminology that you might hear in a face-to-face event. But before we get started, make sure to stay till the end of the video as I will be explaining how you can get some free Yu-Gi-Oh cards. The first word we're going to cover is the word pop. In fact, this is probably going to be the most common and used word that you're going to be hearing in your face-to-face duels. So what does it mean? Well, quite simply, it just means to destroy a card. That's it. It's nothing complicated. Doesn't matter if it's going to be a card such as a monster, spell, or a trap, and doesn't matter if it's on the field, in the hand, or in the deck. Again, it just means to destroy a card. Alright, on to the next one. The next terminology that we're going to be going over is the word bounce. And no, this is not used signifying that you plan on leaving your current location to go somewhere else. Instead, rather, this word means to take a card on the field and send it back to the owner's hand. In fact, a great card that is an example of this is going to be Compulsory Evacuation Device, which allows you to target a card on the field and send it back to that owner's hand. Alright, on to the next terminology. The next word on our list is going to be the word spin, which this one's kind of a fun one. This is actually to select a card on the field and send it back to the owner's deck. A great example of this is going to be the card Nightmare Unicorn, which allows you to discard a card from your hand and select a card on the field and send it back to the deck. Another important piece of terminology to know is the word dump. And yes, though I understand this is what people think is what you're going to be doing after you eat a Crunchwrap Supreme. Seriously, why do you keep eating those? No, instead in Yu-Gi-Oh! It just means to send cards from either your hand or from your deck to the graveyard. In fact, a great example as to why some players want to dump their cards, seriously, I'm not going to be able to get over this word, is going to be the Horus archetype. Those monsters, when used with King Sarcophagus, allows you to be able to summon the monsters from the graveyard onto the field. So if you are looking for a strategy that's going to keep you regular, consider the Horus archetype. Let's now talk about the word rip, which just means that your opponent is forced to discard a card from their hand. A great example of this is going to be the card White Magical Hat, which after inflicting battle damage to your opponent must discard a card from their hand at random. Another very popular term is going to be the word search, which just simply gives the player the ability to look for or search for a card from their deck and add it to generally their hand or sometimes even on the field. A great example of this is going to be the card Bonfire, which allows you to add one level 4 or lower pyro monster from your deck to your hand. So if you're a Snake Eyes player, you're very familiar with this card. Next word on the list is going to be the word swing. And no, this is not what your parents do on Saturday nights.
Emotional damage!
Instead, this just means a declaration of an attack. So regardless whether it's you or your opponent, when you say that you're going to swing into a monster, that means that you are attacking that monster. Now let's look at the next two words, which is going to be crash and reverse crash. Starting with that first one. Crash just means that you have a monster that you want to attack with the intention knowing that it will be destroyed by that battle. Now there's different reasons as to why and when you want to use that, but let's actually pivot over to reverse crash because I feel that's the one that you see more nowadays. With reverse crash, all it means is that you're forcing your opponent to crash into your monsters. Now, you see this more nowadays, especially with different types of decks such as Yubel and Makonko, when you are forcing your opponent to attack your monsters, thus causing them damage. Next word on our list is going to be the word burn, and if you're a Nurse Burn player, you are all too familiar with this terminology. All it means is to simply inflict damage to your opponent directly. A great example of this is going to be an old school card, Ukazi, which allows you to inflict 800 life points of damage to your opponent. Another word to keep an eye out for is mill. What is it? Well, it's simply the act of sending cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard. We actually see this commonly used with cards like Zombie Vampire, which one of its effects are when you detach a material, you're able to force both players to send the top 4 cards of their deck to the graveyard. This next word, I promise you, has left so many duelists confused and puzzled, wondering why their cards that specifically says that they cannot be destroyed still having to send them to the graveyard. And that word is the word send. Now, I will be going over an example as to why this is happening, but first, let's look at the definition itself. Send simply means to move a card's location, whether it be from your hand, the deck, the field, the graveyard, or banish to another location. That is it. Now that we know the definition, And now let's look at a specific example. Taking a look at the card Denjirsu, we can see that when it is summoned, it is able to send a card on the field to the graveyard. Notice that it says the word send and not destroy, because sending is only moving and not destroying the card. So hopefully that provides some clarity for some players who, again, may be confused as to why they're seeing their cards still end up in the graveyard. And the last word on our list is the word scoop. In fact, if you hear your opponent saying that they are scooping, then congratulations, because you have won the duel. Scooping only means that they are going to be surrendering. So if you are in a position where you don't feel that you can win anymore and do not want to continue playing the rest of the duel, you can simply scoop. And that concludes our list of terms and words that you should know before going to your first face-to-face event. Now, as I promised, I mentioned that I was going to tell you about a way how you can win some free Yu-Gi-Oh cards. We are actually going to be hosting a contest here on this channel where all you need to do is subscribe and leave a comment, and some lucky winner at the end of the month will win some free Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So if you are interested, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and also leave a like on this video if you did enjoy. Also, again, don't forget to comment. If you're looking for more interesting YouTube content to watch, be sure to check out these videos here. In the meantime, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.